Number one.
A few years ago, about a year after my dad got a big promotion from work, my family moved to the suburbs in a much nicer area of town than we had been living in before. We were all extremely happy with the move, and our quality of life went way up. I was 15 back then and eager to make some money for myself. I was getting my driver's license soon, and if I was going to enjoy my freedom to the fullest, I of course was going to need money. So I set about sweet talking all of the neighboring families, mentioning all of the babysitting I had done in my old neighborhood. I had never done any babysitting before, but I figured they did not have to know that. Before long, my Friday and Saturday nights were booked solid with babysitting jobs that brought in ridiculous amount of money for very little work. I typically only had to take care of one or two kids for a couple of hours before I put them to bed, and I quickly became comfortable with my duties. Most of the job were boring, but the Miller kids were always a chore to take care of. The Millers lived in the house directly beside us, and they had identical twin boys that were both nightmares to keep watch of. Their names were Jack and Michael. Jack was a quiet boy, and he was always my favorite between the pair. Michael, on the other hand, was hyperactive and constantly loud. He liked to boss Jack around, and on more than one occasion, I would leave to get a snack ready for the boys or use the bathroom only to come back to Michael trying to beat Jack senseless on the floor. I would not really have thought anything of it, boys will be boys, but there was just something about the way that Jack interacted with Michael that off-putting to me. He would cover from his sometimes and shut his eyes. When he did this, Michael would lean down and whisper in his ear. I could never make out what Michael was saying, and the one time I tried to lean in to listen, Michael snapped his head up and stared at me, clearly angry that I was trying to listen. He is just a 5-year-old boy, but something about it gave me the creeps. Jack will talk to him tough, and sometimes they seem to get along well. Always at the end of the night, Jack would beg me not to tell his parents about anything bad that Michael did. A few times I told him that I would had enough and that I was telling them anyways, but the look of fear in his eyes after I said it always kept me from it. At the end of the night, his parents would go up to the room that the boy shared, check to them, then come back down to pay me. Then I would leave. I did this probably 12 times for the Millers. A year ago, after a particularly bad night of Michael behaving horribly and tormenting Jack, I decided it was finally time to tell his parents about it. I put the boys to bed and decided not to mention my plans to Jack. When the boys' parents came home, I told them right away. The look on their faces when I mentioned Michael's behavior made me instantly regret mentioning anything. They paid me without saying a word, and Mr. Miller asked me to leave. He said that they appreciated all the times that I babysat for them, but not to expect any more calls from them. I walked out of the house stunned. I had no idea what would make them act like that. The next weekend, I was at another neighbor's house, the horse to babysit, and asked them if there was any reason that trying to talk to the Millers about Michael would bother them. I sat horrified as Mrs. Howard told me the story of how 3 years ago Michael had gotten hit and killed by a car after running into the road right in front of their house. I don't know how to explain what I saw so many times at the Millers, but needless to say, I quit my babysitting jobs after that. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel.